Welcome to Block 5 of the Speed and Agility component of your athletic development program. Today we're talking about the exercises that we'd like you to do in this block. Some of these may be familiar, some of these are a bit new. The last block, our focus was on the lateral aspect of your development. Today it's more sagittal, so forward, back, up and down. First few exercises may be familiar to you, but there's a few concepts that I want you to get across when you're doing these. The first exercise is a squat jump, and basically what a squat jump is taking out the sort of counter movement ability of the jump. So in a squat jump you get down to about half squat, hold 3 seconds and then jump up again. And that's basically the premise of the movement. So a nice good quarter squat position in between bit of both, and then jump up as high as you possibly can. The 3 second hold there is to try and take out that sort of elasticity of the movement. So you're taking out the stretch shortening cycle in essence, and then trying to generate the power from that position. So 5 repetitions of this. The important point here is that the toes are upright and they're ready for that landing. Now, there's a bit of misconception here is that you need to have your toes up as you're jumping off, but you actually need that toe off. So you're going to have that plantar flexion as you take off. So that's going to happen, this movement, before I take off, because we want the toe off as part of the movement. However, the toes up are in flight. So when you're in flight, get your toes up to be ready for the landing. But on the takeoff, the toe coming up and that plantar flexion is actually part of good mechanics. So don't worry about it on your takeoff, but when you're in flight, keep your toes up. Next one is a counter movement jump. So now you stand in an upright position, squat down into that position we were before, and then generate force upright. Now we see a force to contend with on the way down, and then have to transfer that into vertical force upward. So again, 5 repetitions of this. The same thing applied. The toe off will be here, so you'll have that plantar flexion foot, but in the air, in flight, try and get it straight so it's ready then to hit the floor. We're not doing rebound mechanics here or anything like this. It's just to prepare the body for that good landing mechanics. 5 repetitions of this one. Then you're into the more complex jump, which is sort of the stretch shortening cycle that we talked about. So have a cone. So I wanted to illustrate at home, you don't need fancy equipment. If you have a hurdle or anything like that, obviously that's slightly better, but a cone, a teddy, something that's not too much of a trip hazard. So put that in front of you. You're going to jump over the obstacle, so a little bit of height in behind it, not too high. Even if you don't have anything, just visualize it, jump over it, jump in front of you, and then jumping up into that position again. So jumping over and jumping up. So just to make sure we have got it correct, so stand upright, drop down, jump, and up again. Yep, that's it. Good. And then the toes remain up. Then you utilize your hands and all this. So how you position your hands when you utilize your hands is very important here. So that's perfect. So they come with you on the way up. So they generate more force with you rather than going down as you're trying to go up, because that'll be counterbalancing each other. So up and then try and generate the force upright. That's perfect. Good. And then those toes up is really important. 5 repetitions of that, and then moving on to more complex. So we started really small, really rudimentary, and now we're going into kind of applying all these things together in a more complexity drill. So if you just go on the blue area for a bit, and now we're going to do the same thing coming over. Now, the hurdles or the cones here are just a guideline. We're not going to go over these, so you can stand a little bit to the right. It's just a guideline. You're doing 5 counter movement jumps, one after the other, obviously landing on up again, landing on up again, landing on up again for 5 repetitions, and then rest at the top. So off we go. So again, the toes up each time, that's good. So you'll see a little bit of tuck. So we want the tuck to be more knee drive than if you like ankle drive, if that makes sense. When you tuck up, the knees come up in front of you, and then you're preparing yourself for it. So it's more of a jump in front than a jump behind, if that makes sense. Yeah. Good. 5 jumps, that's good. Yeah. Generate as much force as you can. Upright, upright, upright. Oh, good. So one issue here on Sandra, if I can point it out, is that she's sort of staying in flexion. So I want you to extend your hips. So she's kind of jumping through it, but staying in relatively flexed position. I want you to jump, come out of it each time that I'm fully flexing my hips forward as I'm getting over the jumps. Now what you'll do is go back to the first one, squat jump, counter movement jump, the hurdle jump, sort of the single leg hurdle jump, and then the 5. Repeat that 3 times. That's important. So we're going to add simplicity, complexity, and complexity to the movement, but then go back to simple again. And the whole idea here is that we're not doing these exercises in blocks. We're actually challenging the movement, going back rudimentary, then going up to scale again, back to rudimentary, going up scale. Is a better learning sequence to that. Okay, and then now we're on to our acceleration and deceleration mechanics. So I've been talking about these for maybe 10 weeks. I won't spend too much time on this, but you remember a good jump position, good athletic position. drop back step behind you to get over your center mass, to create a nice forward lean, to get into that mechanics. And then it's that low carriage. When I say low carriage, it's the knees not coming up too high, so the foot, if you look at any sprinters, you'll see that low foot carriage, the foot remains close to the surface. And then you're getting into pistol-like action of the feet to accelerate yourself forward. We're going to try different start positions and decelerate. We do 5 repetitions, decelerate, so into a good squat position or a good elevated position every time you decelerate, showing one way. So when I say showing one way, left hip for 5 reps all the time, and then we do the second set, it'll be right hip facing all the time. Okay, so the first repetition is just a forward acceleration. So when you're ready, good, and decelerate one way. Good, so you're in a good position here. So on the drop step, obviously we want it as fast and as plyometric and as quick as we can, but if you're learning it and you're just going through the motions, I'm happy for you to slow it down. Okay, that has to happen, then that has to happen, then I get my hands and walk through it, and then add the speed of the movement, okay? But what we're going to do now is change the direction. So yeah, face me, yeah. So you're going to go, obviously you're turning on your right side here, so the left foot has to go out to the left to drive you, yep, and then accelerate yourself forward, yep. And then again decelerate the same way, and the same thing now facing away from me. So as you're facing away from me, just as we're both here, so I'm in a good little position, a drop step, but I'm turning on my hips simultaneously to get myself into this position. Then I'm accelerating with my hands and my feet, yep. Good, and show one way, perfect, good stuff. Okay, so we did forward, we did left and right hip. Now we're going over our left and right shoulder, so I don't mind which one you do first. Yeah, so it's a little step forward and spin and accelerate. And the analogy here I like to use is that in table football you have the bar going through the center of, and then you spin and they spin around. So imagine that now is going through your head, so you're spinning actually on yourself when you turn. So it's a step in front, but it's a quick swivel of the hips to accelerate myself into that position. And then go and then decelerate on that cone. So practice left and right. And the functionality here is that your sport is demanding you to change direction, multi-direction. So you don't know, you might be coming for a ball, all of a sudden the ball's overhead, you're not going to turn around like a QE2 and then have to sprint here. You want to turn as efficiently as you possibly can. So teaching your body to be able to turn efficiently on that will allow you then, when the complexity of the game starts to rise, that you have the vocabulary and the movement sense to be able to perform it on the pitch. So practicing is very important. We'll do 2 sets of 5 repetitions. Each one you're going to decelerate, either showing left side or right side, and then you move on to the next set. Okay, so that's it. Now we're going to go on to our speed development. So our speed development here is around 90% of your max. So again, we're not going maximum speed yet. There's plenty of time to do the max speed stuff. Hurling football is a sport where max speed is required, but it's not demanded of all the time. Not every game you play will be max speed, and not every position demands it all the time. It's an area we have to go to, but spending a bit of time on a lower threshold is actually as much beneficial for you as doing all the time speed. So we're going up to 90% today, which will benefit your top end speed to some degree, but it's more about that just a little bit lower to the threshold and obviously staying safe within it. Now each of these, the track is set up with 10 meters, then a 30-meter run, and then a 10-meter slowdown. The 10-meter slowdown, I can't emphasize that's how important that is. I don't want you to go from a 90% speed to a full stop. There shouldn't be a wall at the end of 30 meters. You should be able to slow down gradually, because the mechanical demand of you going from 90% of your max speed to 0 in a very short series of time is going to mean the demand is very high in the body, so you don't need to necessarily do that. There's no benefit to doing that right now at this stage. So the first one is A skip. So you do an A skip for 10 meters, get to 90%, slow down gradually. So we'll show you what the A skip is like. Yep, so when you're ready, so you can march through it first, you can get into the motion, then add a bit of speed, good, and then enter the 90%. Now, obviously this is not 30 meters, but at home it'll be 30 meters, or in the park, wherever you might be. So make sure you're 30 meters with that 10-meter slowdown. And with the A skips, you're getting into good mechanics of the foot, of the arm, sorry, and the foot is coming up the kind of mid-shin height, if you know what I mean. So you're punching into that position each time as you're getting up to the 10 meters and you go for a sprint. Okay, or a 90% sprint. B skips. Bit tricky, this one, a lot of coordination required here. Yeah, so you're bringing that leg around, that cyclic action of the foot, scraping the floor. As you come around, scrape the floor. Good, and then 90%. Good. So when you're practicing that B-skip, that foot, that scrape of the floor, that contact of the balls of feet under center mass is very important. Very much the hamstring stimulus exercise, and some of the best hamstring work that you could do is practicing it in the most functional way possible. And this is where hamstrings often break down, is their speed mechanics, sprint mechanics. So teaching hamstring to be functional and use it in this area can be quite a good exercise to prevent some issues in the future. Okay, the next one is straight leg running, again on the hamstring. So we're going straight leg, balls of the foot is the contact, this time it's straight, you're remaining upright, and you're actually accelerating, so getting quicker as you get up to 10 meters, and then you go into your 90%. Yeah, accelerate, 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 and then 90%. Yeah, and slow down again gradually. So again, just mechanics here is obviously your hands will be going like this, and the contact with the floor is the balls of the feet, and you're kicking your feet out, but you're accelerating. And as you're getting a bit momentum, it becomes a bit freer in the movement, and it becomes a bit easier to do. But I think you know what's required there. Now a little bit more functional for the last three. So we're going to go lateral shuffle. I'll talk you through the important points here. So lateral shuffle, keeping the feet apart in a good squat position. Again, it's athletic position, but maintaining that athletic position as you're traveling left or right. Okay, so let's have a go, Sandra. Keeping your feet nice and wide and coming across, and then hitting that cone, and then accelerating to 90 degrees. Possibly one of the most misused exercises, I think, and definitely if you don't apply the right principles to it, it becomes a very meaningless exercise. So keeping your feet in that wide position and shuffling across is a very important component of the exercise. If you start crossing your feet a little bit like that, it becomes like Bambi crossing the meadows, and it becomes a little bit non-functional, non-specific. So make sure you're getting yourself into a nice position, shuffling across, maintain a good base of support, so you feel I can accelerate from here, I can sprint from here, I can jump from here, whatever it might be. But that positioning and teaching your body to be strong in that position is going to transfer much further than you than just kind of ambling through the movement. Okay, other side. Same thing again. Again, good position, maintain that position, look forward as well, look forward, and then into a sprint. That's good, very good. Yeah, so like I was just mentioning there, it's important that we keep that integrity of the exercise as you're traveling across. Very easy to cross your feet or narrow the distance or make them too wide and you're almost too low, then just you know what feels right. Okay, we're going to apply the same principles of that movement into a jockey movement. Now the jockey movement, we're going to go 2 shuffling left, 2 shuffling right, but the important part here is that when you get to this here, how do I turn from here? Now what I don't want to see is this narrow and then come here. I want you to maintain that wide base support and just turn your hips. And then I'm here, turn my hips. So I'm always in that good position to defend, because that's where you might be jockeying the most. Okay, traveling back, opening up the hips, traveling back, keeping the hips wide, and then into a sprint. Perfect. Good. And there are 6 repetitions, and then your each kind of exercise then follows a 90% sprint. Now what I would say is you have 3 sets of 6 90%. Now that is a lot. There's a lot of high speed run, there's a lot of sprint distance. I would build up to the 90%. If 2 or 3 of those repetitions are close to 90, fantastic. You don't necessarily have to get the 6 in. If they're 70, 80, 90 and building up, fantastic. If the movement here is good, you're getting real benefit and real adaptation here. The return is quite close. It's not many moons away. So make sure you're getting these exercises right. You're putting in the time, the consistency, and when you go back, you're far likely to maintain playing the sport you love the most. And putting in the time now, investing in these exercises, and the stability and mobility and everything else that comes with it, will ensure that you're back playing the sport you love for as long as possible. See you again soon.